What's up, guys? Welcome back to Columbia Auto Service. Today we have a 2012 Dodge Avenger with a 3.6 with 126,564 miles on it. It's a common engine that Dodge, Chrysler puts in a lot of their vehicles, a lot of minivans, a lot of the Avengers. I'm not sure what all, but it's a lot. We see it on a lot of vehicles, and they all have the same problem. Anyway, this lady came in with a check engine light on. And somebody already read it and said something about an oil pressure sensor. So we read the code. The code was setting the code for an oil pressure sensor. We got down there. You can get to the oil pressure sensor up under the back of the intake, tested the circuits and all. It was good. So she needs an oil pressure sensor, needs to be changed out. But the oil pressure sensor on this car is part of a whole oil filter housing, which is bad to leak. Every one of these 3.6s that are a Chrysler Dodge 3.6 leaks oil in the valley up underneath the intake manifold. She's already approved to do the job. I've got a new oil filter housing right here. I was going to show you what it looks like, and then we'll go outside and look at the vehicle. I've got a guy out there pulling the intake manifold's got to come off to change it, the upper and the lower intake manifold. So I've got her a new one right here. Anyway, you'll see the oil filter sits out this side. A little screw cap, you screw this off, change the oil filter out. But anyway, these seals under here have oil and coolant, and they leak at times, and they make a mess underneath the valley. And if it starts leaking bad enough, it'll run out the valley and run down the back of the engine. You'll start noticing oil leaking on your vehicle. But anyway, we've changed a train load of them, and this one here actually has an oil pressure sensor and a coolant temp sensor built into it. So let's go outside, and I'll exactly show you where it's at on the car and pretty much what you got to go do to get down there to it. He's already pulled housing out of there, but you can see all the oil that's left down there. He's trying to suck it out. If you got one of these Dodge or Chryslers with a 3.6, you start noticing oil dripping from the bottom of it. You now want to take a peek down here by this oil filter housing up underneath this intake manifold, and that valley will be full of oil because these oil filter housings are prone to leak. All right, well, I'm going to end this video right here. Customer came in with a check engine light on, setting the code for an oil pressure sensor, which your oil pressure sensor was bad. P0520 was the code. My guys got to check an oil pressure sensor and checked the circuits, and everything was fine on the circuits, and did our test and showed the oil pressure sensor was bad. So they got to noticing, just from dealing with these 3.6s on all the Dodges and Chryslers, Jeeps, Volkswagens, that they do leak, and the oil pressure sensor is part of that housing. So they got to looking, and sure enough, that oil filter housing was leaking. And when you get a new oil filter housing for those 3.6s, they come with a new sensor in them, a new temp sensor and a new oil pressure sensor. So we told the customer, it's best to go in there and change out that housing, because the leak's only going to get worse, the oil's only going to get worse leaking, and eventually fills up that valley, and it starts running out the back of the engine off the transmission, and it's dripping all up under the car. We've seen it time and time again. So anyway, she decided to go ahead and change out the oil filter housing, and we got that done for her, and it's not leaking. I just want to kind of let everybody know, if you have anywhere from a 2011 to a 2020 Chrysler 200, Chrysler Town & Country, Dodge Avenger, Dodge Challenger, Dodge Charger, Dodge Durango, Dodge Grand Caravan, Dodge Journey, Jeep Grand Cherokee, Jeep Grand Cherokee, a Volkswagen Routan, a Chrysler 300, a Jeep Wrangler, a Jeep Gladiator, a Ram cargo van, a Lancia, a Fiat Fremont, or even Ram 1500 models with the 3.6 in them, the Ram ProMasters with the 3.6 in them, the Chrysler 200s, the Chrysler Pacificas, and the Chrysler Voyagers with these 3.6s in them. They all have this same style oil filter housing assembly in them underneath the intake manifold. So if you have a leak on one of these vehicles, if you own one of these vehicles, you have a leak, just pull that engine cover back and look down in there in that oil filter, where that oil filter housing goes, and you'll see, sure enough, you'll probably see, if that's what it is, if you have an oil leak, the first thing to do to check is look in that valley down there, and if you see it filling up with oil, that's your culprit right there. You got to pull the upper intake off, you got to pull the lower intake off, and then you get you somehow to clean all that. It's going to be a lot of oil in there. Clean it, get it sucked out. And then whenever you pull that oil filter housing up, there's going to be antifreeze runs out. So then you got to get something in there and get it all cleaned out. Get it all cleaned up real good, put it back together, and that'll take care of your leak on your 3.6 Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Fiat, Volkswagen engines. Have a good day from Columbia Auto Service.